What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, Connor on Chain. So, let's cover a few things today with the overall market sentiment, majors, but I also want to get back into physical AI and robotics. This is a narrative that I've actually been very bullish on. I've been kind of doing a lot of research the last few weeks, just on and off, on just robotics in and of itself as an industry outside of crypto and also in crypto, and just where I feel robotics has a huge, advantage of within crypto because I have a feeling that robotics is going to have a spark in the market at some point. I'm not saying that, anything robotics based in crypto randomly is going to pull a 25x out of nowhere. But, it's going to come down to sentiment. It's going to come down to a lot of things. So I want to dive into all of that, cover a few things with that. So let's get into it because sentiment is, of course, still not the greatest in the market, but, it's still a time to be looking and researching, especially into the future of technology. If there are certain things that you find really interesting, whether it's in crypto or not, it's always a good time to be looking into what is next, what are major companies investing in, what are VCs looking at, what are these massive whales and big players actually focusing on, for real utility and legitimate industries, right? And one of the biggest that, I've actually been watching for a long time is physical AI or basically robotics. And within crypto, a lot of people might classify that in with DeepIn. A lot of people might classify that in with AI. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of categorize it because robotics just has so many different parts to it. But within crypto, I feel like it's definitely going to be like very niched in a way. And by the end of the video, you'll understand what I mean. So, NVIDIA has actually talked many different times about just kind of like what they're focusing on going forward. Obviously, NVIDIA is one of the largest companies in the world for anything to do with AI and computing, right? But something that they are focusing on, that they've made very clear, whether it's interviews to on stage, things like this, is infrastructure for robotics. Whether it's the software, the hardware, the sensors, to whatever it is, right? There's so many different parts to robotics, but a lot of major companies, they see the future and they know robotics itself is going to have that spark. It's going to have that chat GBT type moment that we saw all the way in 2022 if people were around. When chat GBT came out and all that it could do and help people and change different things. I think robotics is going to have some sort of spark like that. It might not be as large as that, but that kind of push and momentum for robotics is going to bring a huge spark into the market. Both crypto and stocks, anything like that, right? And for me, there are mainly two, potentially three projects that I'm watching here, and I've mentioned them on the channel multiple times. Because when it comes down to robotics, when it comes like we're dealing with crypto here, and a lot of crypto is software based. There's not many projects that are fully focused on hardware doing all this stuff. But obviously, when it comes down to robotics, unless you're working on the literal, software itself, which in crypto could be something to focus on heavy, a lot of crypto projects aren't building, full out hardware for robots, things like that. Um, and that is where I think that's going to be a heavy focus on robotics within crypto is going to be on the software side. And there's two main projects that I've been focusing on. And so I do want to pull them up here. Where is it? Peaq is one of them. So Peaq is a project that I have, I've been watching literally since launch. But, I've been an advocate. I don't really like their tokenomics, even though, every project operates in a different way. They need to do certain things with their tokenomics to be able to sustain, whether it's, there's so many different things to it. I don't want to get into it. But they have, to me, as far as from an investor standpoint and market sentiment, tokenomics have not been looking good for the project, basically driving this straight down to zero. But Peak is building the literal machine economy for crypto. They have a lot of strong partnerships. Um, they're building an entire blockchain infrastructure for robotics. And they have, like I said, a lot of partnerships. They have a lot of projects already building on top of them that are fully robotics based. So Peak and its ecosystem is going to be probably something that a lot of people eventually will start to focus on once, maybe robotics has that aha moment in time, right? But Peak, I would have to say, is definitely a project I've been watching for a long time. Full disclosure, I still do not own it. So keep this in mind. I do not own Peak. I've watched it for a long time. But because of sentiment, I have still not bought it. Because I know how this market moves, and when things, decide to dump, when everything is going to zero, market sentiment just gets horrible like it is right now. Lots of projects are just going to trend down, especially when there's very little demand to be buying into certain tokens, even if they're building the most insane tech you've ever heard of. When sentiment is down like this, when Bitcoin, ETH, all the majors are down, everything else is going to follow. And especially if it's over multiple months' time, lots of people through time capitulation will start selling. You know, they start losing interest because there's no buyers. Lots of different things to it, right? And then in combination, when you have projects with a lot of consistent sell pressure, again from an investment standpoint, it's not the greatest because when there's no demand and they need to consistently sell, to sustain their own economy, their own ecosystem, this is what happens to a lot of projects, right? Doesn't mean that these projects are destined for zero. They're never going to come back. But, it's hard when the sentiment is like this. But Peak, in my opinion, I think is definitely undervalued. I'm not trying to make this video to say buy Peak right now. It's going to 50x overnight. Like, absolutely not. I would be questioning buying a lot of different projects at the current moment. But obviously, when we're looking at projects sitting at a complete bottom, that is going to be the time you look at them, potentially start adding and focusing on it. Come up with your own real in-depth thesis on why you think this could be something in the future. And that's where you park capital, at the complete bottom when everyone is afraid, you know. But Peak, I think, is, again, they're just building it seems like a very strong um, robotics, physical AI based ecosystem. There's not many projects in the market that are doing anything like that. The other one, though, is Elki. Similar case here, though. Same thing with tokenomics. There is sell pressure, but it's to sustain their ecosystem. And then again, when there's minimal buyers, when sentiment's like this, many projects are going to start dropping. Lots of weak hands are going to sell. Lots of people are going to start losing hope, and just selling their bags, for a loss, right? But outside of like the charts and how things look, Elki is another one. Because when it comes down to any robot, anything like that, what Elki focuses on is spatial computing and spatial intelligence. It's kind of how if a robot was placed in your house or a grocery store or somewhere, they need to be able to have that software and a way to actually locate, move around, and understand a physical space. There's really minimal projects, not even in crypto. Outside of crypto, there's not too many companies even focusing on this right now. And that's where Elki, though, I think has a huge advantage in the market. Again, this is kind of, again, outside tokenomics, outside of different things that I know a lot of, experienced investors when you're looking into buying an altcoin, right? You have like your own thesis, different things. Oh, how's the team? How's this, that, and that? In many cases, when you see tokenomics that are very low float, high diluted, but minimal circulating supply, tokenomics, consistent sell pressure, it's something you don't want to buy into a lot. But based on the angle of physical AI within crypto, I think Elki may be a legitimate asymmetric bet because it's one of the only projects at least in crypto right now, that I see that has close to zero competition. They combine everything from AI into robotics. Elki is actually a very interesting project. Um, and their founder is very delusional in a sense where he wants this project to be the project that onboards millions, if not billions, of robots. And when you see a founder that dedicated to his own project or to something, that's always something really good you want to look for. Because in crypto, at the end of the day, one of the best ways to be investing in coins is actually by investing in people. You invest in the teams, in the founders. So from that standpoint, Elki, I think, is definitely an asymmetric bet. Again, it does not mean price is going to do this tomorrow, next week. It's not just going to rip to, new all-time highs. This is not a video to say, buy these two coins, you know? But I think these are, like I said, because within crypto itself, you don't really have many projects, if any, building real robots. It's not like if we're looking just in general at major startups outside of crypto, a ton of them are building, these consumer facing robots. A lot of people are building manufacturing, whether it's plants to major businesses to manufacture robots. They need sensors. A lot of companies focusing on the sensors for robotics. Basically, to do, I don't even know. As far as like so many different aspects, I get so overwhelmed like thinking about it. There's a ton of different major companies focusing on this stuff. But within crypto itself, like I said earlier, it's very much so focused on the software side of it until we can see a real project building, top tier hardware that also relates crypto into it. Or if we see a major player like Aptronic, Boston Dynamics, or, whoever, right? Even Tesla. Tesla's like a major player that should be pretty prominent going forward with robotics, unless something like that ends up jumping into investing, becoming a partner, something for a crypto project working on some sort of robotic software, things like that. There's minimal hardware based robotics projects in crypto right now. There's still a few others too that I have my eyes on, but these two I just feel like are very top tier. Basically, everything about them I like. Again, aside from tokenomics, like to be looking at something to invest in it, tokenomics in and of itself is a huge factor in crypto. That's why you get insane dumps across the board with a lot of coins. But, as far as the industry itself, if and when that does happen, these are projects I think will start garnering a ton of organic attention because of what they're focusing on and what they've been building while minimal people have been paying attention. That is what I'm looking at and have been looking at for a while within robotics, physical AI. I just like to find and, at least speculate on narratives within this market that haven't happened yet. That is something I literally live for. I don't want to be always just buying into, what's hype at the moment. But, especially when sentiment is this bad, it's like, when the market comes back, when we start to have a spark of attention and people want to start buying risk on assets like crazy, there's going to be a lot of new projects that start launching. There's going to be a lot of projects that are in different narratives that people weren't focused on 6 months ago. But because time has shifted, different things have popped up, different narratives are going to start taking over. And for me, I think physical AI is probably one of the most obvious that will be coming at some point. So in the future, I'll probably make another video focused on a lot more, different projects, a lot of lower caps, I guess, focused in this sector. But for right now, I just think Peaq and Elki are very, very strong bets. Again, even though their charts are down bad, even though sentiment is horrible right now, that's just what I wanted to talk about with this video, I'm gonna pull up, I'm like looking for TradingView and I'm on it right now. I still think though BitTensor's been one of my favorite coins as of lately, the last month. Same thing, it's been down only though. Looks like it wants to hold the support level, but until the whole market really decides to have a bounce, a lot of coins are going to sit at support. A lot of support levels will be broken. And, that's kind of just how this market is right now. This is definitely a very wild cycle, a lot different than I've ever honestly thought it would get to. But, nonetheless, we are still researching, still looking for what is going to have that spark, what will pop at some point, whether in crypto or outside of crypto, to then kind of leak into crypto a little bit, you know. So that is what I've been focusing on lately a lot. But outside of that, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.